Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, knit, and decorate. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Make and Decorate with Stephanie podcast. I am Stephanie, and I'm finally back from an extended mid-season winter break. I usually start the second half of the season in February, and here we are already in mid-March, just days away from the official start of spring. And that background noise is my dog Cooper. Sorry about that. But I'm going to try not to do a take two. So here we go. I do have lots to share with you, and we'll record a separate chit chat episode for that. This episode is available as normal in the audio format on your preferred podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, etc. There will be two versions on my YouTube channel, which is at Make and Decorate on YouTube. One version on there will be the automatically uploaded audio version of the podcast. And the second version is the full video version where you can see Jenny K. Parks and I talking. And again, sorry, it's evening time, and my dog seems to have the zoomies right now. So, all right, here we go. So let's just go ahead and move on to the guest segment with Jenny K. Parks of Jenny K. Quilts. We have a long and engaging conversation, and this is the perfect opportunity for you to get out your hand stitching, knitting, crochet, or whatever you do, and get comfy with some me time and immerse yourself in the wonderful world of quilting. My guest today is a quilt designer and teacher, Jenny K. Parks from Jenny K. Quilts. Hello, Jenny, and welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like I'm in a bit of rarefied air because you've had some really awesome people on here. It's
Oh,
very cool. Very
thank
cool.
you so much. Yeah,
Thank
I'm in
you.
my 7th year, and
Amazing.
it is. It's crazy how fast it goes. And then, I took 4 years. Everybody knows this. I say it a lot. So people who've been listening from the beginning knows that it took me 4 years to collect the equipment and do all this research, and thought I had to be
Yes.
perfect. And then finally I told myself, you're going to do it or you're not. So I finally did it. And I'm so
love
glad
that.
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that fear can be crippling, you know that? It's just, I
Oh,
know. And then I'm like one of those researchers and have everything, all your ducks in a row before you
mhm.
do that kind of stuff. But anyway,
Mhm.
so here we are. And yes, I've had some wonderful guests, and you now are being added to the queue
Oh,
of all of that. So I'm really happy to meet you. And we have lots of great things to talk about. And you are just really like in the heart of everything quilty. And so let's just kind of sort of dive in. Um, and I just want to go back to the beginning because,
mhm.
I don't know if everyone wants to know, but I like to know, how did it all begin? Like, were you quilting as a little girl, or did you start later in life? So let's hear it.
Well, every hero needs an origin story, right? You have to
Right.
have. So I grew up, my grandmother taught me some hand embroidery, right? And yeah, a lot of hand embroidery, a little bit of sewing, but not too much. My mom did a little bit of sewing growing up, but nobody did quilts. Although, I'm just remembering now, I had an idea. So she would make my prom dresses and things like that, right? And I had an idea at one point to take those scraps. I may do this. I may do this, Stephanie. To take those scraps and make kind of like it was, just because they were all different. It was a royal blue taffeta and a baby blue taffeta and a white taffeta, right? So beautiful, all sparkly. And I thought these would look really nice, all put together and laid out like in a quilt. And I thought about putting that together. I'm I may have to go back to that and do that.
Mhm.
Okay, now note to
Yes.
self, right? Quilters are always coming up, always get a new
Yes.
idea. Here it
Yes.
is. Oh, I got to
I
do
know.
that. So, but I didn't learn to quilt. I didn't start quilting until I was homeschooling my girls. And we were going through a home ec thing, and the next thing was to make these quilted placemats. And I thought, I know how to sew. I got my sewing machine. I can do this, but I
Mhm.
better just try it myself so I know what the heck I'm talking about, right? It's always a
Mhm.
good plan.
Yes.
So, so I went to Joann's, which, goodbye,
I
Joann's,
know. I
all gone. Did you hear?
know.
Every single one is going to go.
Yeah, by May. I've been
Yeah.
following this because, it's just, like, one of the last big box fabric stores out there,
Yeah.
which is kinda sad, and I know that they've been competing with all of the, brick and mortar smaller shops and everything, but I always felt
Mm-hmm.
like there was room for everyone,
Right.
and those big box stores are needed because if you just need to, like, run out and get, like, a staple, they have it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
like to buy my specialty quilt fabrics from the quilt shops and,
Right. Yes.
some staples, and they have all the crafts, so
Oh, yeah, all the things.
it's
You go
too
in there, it's an
bad. Yeah.
adventure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. It's
and, part of
crazy.
my thought is, "What did you do with all the money I gave you?" Is
Well that and, I mean, like, I kinda, like, did a deep dive in just the whole business end of it because 'cause I'm like, "How could
Mm.
they filed for bankruptcy once, and now
Mhm.
again, and now they've actually haven't tried the first time they tried to salvage it, and they were given $100 million from an investor.
Mm.
What did they
Mm.
do with that? Because they
Wow.
didn't invest in my local store. I mean, they were always
Yeah.
overwhelmed,
Yep.
not enough people
Yeah.
working, and then you have unhappy customers,
Mhm.
and the store just looks unkempt. So anyway, it was like, yeah, what did you do with all that? But I came up with my
Mm.
own. Let's just do this little tangent real quick.
Okay,
I
okay,
came
I'm in,
up,
I'm in.
I came up with the like I know the root cause.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just this is French for me,
Spill the
but
tea.
I think they tried to be everything to everybody. They
Oh,
got into
yeah.
the fabric printing business to compete with
Mm.
Spoonflower. They
Mhm.
started to sell Liberty Tanalon online. They,
Mm.
did, the memberships and the online stuff and, plus their stores, their actual quilt stores, plus their online stuff. I mean, they just, like, had their little hand in every little
All of
piece
it.
of the pie, and it's just like, do what you're good
Mm.
at. You're good at the big box physical brick and mortar stores and some
Right.
online, of course, because they
Mhm.
don't carry everything. And then it got worse after the pandemic. And then you go in there and you can't even like get
Oh,
everything you need for a single project. So
right,
I just feel
right.
like don't do the whole spoon flour and, you know, all that other stuff
And I
because
I can see the thing though, you're right, you're a business and you're thinking this trend, it might be taking off.
Mhm,
We gotta get ready for it. And I
mhm.
get that, but you're right, all the things, we can't do
Yeah,
all the things. That is and yeah.
because I think
So
after they did it the first time, the first bankruptcy is when I saw like, "Oh, we're printing" like, I think that's where they invested all this stuff, and it just did not work.
mhm. Mhm.
But anyway, that's my 2 cents, so that's
Oh, no, I really like that, and that's good. I need to remember that as a business person. I'll be first to say, I am not great at handling money. I'm very easily distracted by shiny objects and, "Oh, let's go." And but you really need to focus on what you're good at. Narrow that down.
Mhm.
Let's calm down and think about this before you do that. And yeah, I think boy, that kind of hits the nail on the head because you're right. After the pandemic,
Mhm.
I had a joke there that I always wanted to go when I went in Joann's, I wanted to go with somebody because they would take the number and wait in line to get stuff cut at the
Yes.
counter. I could go around and do the shopping and then we'd swap
Yeah.
out. They could do their stuff. And then by the time
Mhm.
we'd be ready to cut.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, so
Yeah.
and I work, and I know being behind that cutting counter, my after school job was working at Sofro Fabrics, which was bought
Oh.
by Joann's.
Oh,
after I stopped working there. So,
interesting.
yeah, way back in the day, I worked there, and I know the cutting, and I know the thing. And I've worked in local quilt shops here in town, so I've got a good feel for
Oh, so
both of
you
them.
know. Yeah,
I
you have
know.
experience in bigger stores and the local quilt shops.
I have
Nice.
tales from behind the cutting table. I definitely
Ooh,
do.
yes. Well, we're gonna talk about one of those things later too
Okay,
that
yeah.
has to do with ripping. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. We're gonna rip.
Ok
Okay, so anyways, I went into Joann's.
yeah.
That's where you over fabric, right? That's where I went, and I got the supplies, and I got these wonderful fabrics, kind of a burgundy thing. And the pattern, I think, suggested, do a variety of darks and lights, maybe that kind of thing. So I picked up an assortment and I put them together. And the way you arranged it, you there was it was six different fabrics, I think. And so there was one fabric on the back, but then you had an assortment of all the fabrics on the front. And I arranged it so you got this beautiful flow from light to dark. And I thought, I love this. There's the idea, so much potential. What could you do with all this? It was very
Mm.
exciting to me. I was hooked. So
Ah,
then this will show you how far back in the day I am. I went to the library and I learned how to quilt by watching Eleanor Burns on VHS.
oh! I watched her a lot too, I still
Yeah.
do, and it's on
Yeah.
PBS.
Yeah.
She is awesome.
Well,
S
I
throwing the
watched.
fabrics on the
Oh, over the
floor.
shoulder. I know sometimes I want
Yeah,
to do that, but I can't. It's her thing. Uh,
it is her
but
thing.
yeah, and she's awesome. But then watching. So I go to the library, right? They'd have a limit, 10 items on one subject, please. And I'd be like, okay, I'm walking out with my 10. And it'd be the quilting stuff. And then I would DVR Simply Quilts with
Mhm,
Alexander
yep,
said, Love of Quilting, and on and on. Yeah, all of them. And I do that. And then
Nancy. Mhm,
yeah, when I had time by myself, I'd say, okay, I'm watching this. I'm watching this. And then I'd tell my family, right? When I carved out that time for me to
mhm.
go shopping, I'm sorry. Okay, I want you to understand, I'm entering a rift in the time space continuum, and I will come out when I'm darn good and ready. Okay? All right, leave me be. And just enjoy it. Oh man, it's so much potential. Quilting
Mm,
has so much potential. I love it. I love it. So that's how I learned. I learned to do it that way. I didn't take I think I took like a beginning quilting class, a couple of them, but I'm really
me
a
too.
visual learner, and my what do I want to say? Attention span is quite small.
Mm.
So when I want to learn something, okay, show me. Go ahead. And if I can't find it there, okay, I'm going to go on the next place and everything. So
Oh,
it's hard
okay.
for me to settle in a class.
Uh-huh.
Let me rephrase. I probably wouldn't be my best customer because I want to learn the things, and especially with videos, right? People like a little longer thing, but I'm like, okay, I want to know this information. You can't tell me. Goodbye. Now the next person. Goodbye. You know, it's like in The Devil Wears Prada. I'm done with you. Off you
Yes,
go.
yes.
You can't help me.
Oh, it's
I'm not that mean
hilarious.
though. I swear. I swear.
No one can be as mean as,
I
Anna
know, right?
Wintour,
Right?
which is who it's
Oh.
based off of.
Oh, oh, you said it out loud.
I
No,
did,
I
I
know,
did.
right? Yeah.
It's like
Anyways,
Voldemort.
so that's how I learned to quilt.
Oh, well, that's fun because it's sort of how I learned
Mhm,
as well. Because I didn't, no one around me quilted except for my
mhm,
grandmother, but she lived farther away, and, she did make me a quilt when I was a kid with the little sunbonnet Sues
mm.
on it, and I loved it. Loved it. So I've always wanted to know, but when you don't know and you see these magnificent like compositions of all these, like
Yes.
I'm looking even behind you of the flowers and the stems and the purple pieces and the blue pieces, and you're just like, how in the world is that even done? Like when you don't know. So that's kind of like how I was. I sewed again like you, like learned on my own, like with clothing and the whole going to
Mm,
the Hancock fabrics and getting the patterns and stuff.
mhm, mhm.
But yeah, so I didn't know, and then I went into a quilt shop one time just to get yardage for a pair And I'm looking around like, "Oh, I would love to be able to do this." And she's like, "You can." I was
Mhm.
like, "What?" And then it was like you, it's just like I took off and never stopped with the
Oh,
quilting.
that's awesome. What was your first project?
Quilting is great. It was a class I
Okay.
took, and it
Mhm.
was, we did the pinwheel block.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
nice.
and no, I'm sorry, that was the 2nd class. I did 2 classes with them. It was at a local quilt shop, and we did a 9 patch square,
Okay,
lap
okay.
size, 9
Mhm.
square, and the next one was a small, and that's a good project, I think, too, for beginners because they
Yes.
can finish it and it can work, but it was like a I don't know, like a 24 by 24, and it was
Okay.
like little pinwheel blocks, and that was it. Those are the classes I took, and then I just kept going like you and
Yeah, yeah.
watched all the TV shows and
Right.
did everything I could to stay with it. And it's I think it's fun when you learn like that though, because you're
Mhm.
just so thirsty for the knowledge and you really
Yes.
want to learn versus if you're like growing up and you're like, oh, I don't want it. You know,
I don't have to.
when your family wants to show you and you're just like, no, I don't want to make your stuff.
I wanna do my own
Right,
things.
right, right.
My
So,
own.
I almost think, like, you can appreciate it a little bit more as an adult because you're really into it and you're really
Mhm.
just, like, after it, so it's
Mhm.
fun. Yeah. There's good
Yeah.
for both ways. So,
Yeah.
and it's good that you already knew how to sew. I mean, being taught hand embroidery as a kid, that's cool.
Mhm. Mhm. It
Nice. You still
was.
do
It
that?
was. You were talking about fear at the very beginning, though. My grandmother had a lot of
Mhm.
what I could never do it good enough for her, you know. And so
Mm,
then there's a fear, and you don't want to
yes.
do it because it'll never be good enough. So why would you do it?
Right. Yeah.
Why am I gonna do what I'm just gonna fail at? Thank you. I'm
Mhm.
gonna do something else.
Yes.
But, yeah, so I learned that, and actually, I can think, throughout my life, like, a lot of crewel embroidery, I've always had kind of a kit around. I would go, again, either Hobby Lobby or Joann's, and you buy the dimensions embroidery kits and whatever, and work on those and do that because I just enjoyed
Mhm.
working with my hands after I got over that, um,
Yes.
that it had to be as good as she did.
Right.
And
Right.
so interesting too. I grew up, well, when I started quilting, I kind of inherited a couple of the family quilts, right? And so my mom said, "Well, here, you take care of these, you watch them, and, pass them on down or whatever. And don't make sure you don't do anything with grandma's quilt. It's really important. Don't mess up grandma's quilt. Protect it. Take care of it." So,
Mm.
okay. So I decided I'm going to hang it up on the wall. Beautiful. And it was just kind of a 9 block arrangement of hand embroidered baskets.
Ooh.
And this was
Pretty.
probably, I'm thinking, late 70s designs, motifs there. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the hand embroidery on there, and I said, "This is not my grandma's quilt. This is not the work she would have done. There are
Mm.
loops in there so big you could have caught a toenail. This is not my grandmother's work at all. Or if it is,
Ah.
then I didn't get the best end of that deal because I." So what I think happened with that, I inherited the quilt, but what I think happened is she was really active in her church, and it would not surprise me if there was like because the blocks, what do I want to say? The embroidery, even at the level that it was, there were some that were better than others. And so it kind of makes me think
Oh,
this
like a
was a group
swap.
effort. Yeah,
Yeah,
like a swap where
like a
everybody said,
bee.
okay, everybody's going to do a block. We'll put it together and then we'll sell it at the church auction or
There you
something
go.
like that. And she
Yeah.
won it. So she
Okay.
called it her quilt. That's
Yeah,
my quilt. I
yeah,
won it,
yeah.
but she didn't make that quilt.
No.
Not at all. Grandma did not make, not my grandma's quilt. Mm-mm,
Yeah,
mm-mm.
you would know that for sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There were a lot of them, right? It's satin stitches where it's supposed to be, nice and close and
Yeah.
smooth together. And like, you could stick your whole finger in there and pull them apart.
Mm.
That's grandma didn't do that.
Aw,
Mhm.
okay. So, you didn't have to yeah, you didn't have to hang that on the wall because it wasn't all her work.
Right. Well, no, I still hung it up on the wall, but I'd say, yeah, that's not my grandma's work. I don't
Aw.
know where it came from, but it's still
They should
pretty.
have all signed it, I think, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't. So,
They didn't. Oh,
yeah.
well. Uh, so then you started quilting when you're with, schooling your girls,
Hmm.
homeschooling. what came next? Like, did you start working at a quilt shop or?
I did. It was probably about 12 years along. And after I started, I've been quilting for about 12 years. And girls were growing up and getting ready to go other places. And, they didn't need me as much. So, okay, maybe I need to find some work. Why don't I use what I enjoy? Maybe find some quilt shops that I could go at. Because I'd already been in a lot of the quilt shops in town.
Yes.
So I just called around and found one, and I was working there, and I worked there for about 2 years. And then there's another shop in town. I think I quit that for a little while to help my husband. He has his own business, and so I was working for him for about a year, and then I was working at another shop
Mhm.
for a couple years as well. So yeah, it's a whole different view being behind the cutting table and being in the business stuff than there is on the front of
Yeah,
the table.
yes, yes, I'm sure. Right, because
But
the store has to order all the fabrics that they think will sell to their
yes,
customers
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
supplies, and did they have classes and stuff like that?
hmm
Did you get into teaching any of those classes?
I did. I think kind of I come from a long line of teachers,
Mm,
people who are, what do I want to say, have a teaching mentality. Like, oh, I've learned something here. I want to show you how to do this, right? That's kind of my mentality. And obviously I'm teaching my girls. So like I'm trying to pass this information along. And I was helping at the quilt shop, the first quilt shop, and they had they offered classes and I'm stuff. I'm thinking, hey, we can probably up our game here a little bit. I'd love to teach some classes, so I was thinking about what would be good, and let's do like a picture of the teacher and a little profile about them, so when you sign up for class, you know who you're taking it from and
that's
what their
good.
specialties
Yeah,
are.
I always enjoy that,
Yeah,
as a
so
student.
right, exactly, you want to know, all
Yeah,
right, why should I trust you? How do
mhm,
you know?
or why should I invest
Right, right,
in
exactly.
this? Are you gonna, be good or not?
Yeah. So, in Golden, I'm in Denver, and in Golden, which is just the northwest side of town,
Okay.
there was a film studio. Then it was, at that point it was F&W Media, and then it was
Hmm.
bought by somebody else, and now it's Golden Peak Media.
Oh, okay,
But
yeah.
it turns out that they filmed a lot of the shows, like Fonz and Porter, and
Mhm.
there was a few others that they filmed there. Quilting Arts, I think, was there.
Mm.
Stuff for Quilters newsletter, all kinds of things. As they were a big publishing house, actually, it was
Mhm.
kind of all there, and they were and let's see, Shannon Fabrics, the one they make cuddle cloth.
Mhm.
It's one of the
Like
versions
a
of
Minky?
Minky,
Mhm.
right? And they make cuddle cloth, and they contacted the shop manager and said, we'd like to have, and I think they looked through the list of stuff and they said, we'd like to have this gal, me, come and demonstrate and film some demos working with Minky.
Mm.
And I don't know if you picked up on it. I am a little bit of a ham, and I have no problem being in front of camera.
Ah,
Excuse me.
it's okay.
And I've done Toastmasters, I've taken theater and improv and the whole shebang. And so my manager calls me up and she said, well, they want to have somebody teach how to sew with the cuddle cloth, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but they're looking for a couple videos. And I'm like, okay, be cool, Jenny, be cool. Yes, I would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I could.
Oh,
Let me
I
check my
hung
schedule, but I could work it in.
I can work it in. I can figure that out.
And then you're like, "Ah."
Yeah, I know, I know. I mean, I hung the phone. It was so exciting. So exciting. And that was the first one I did. And then for like I don't know, for probably about 5 years, I was doing there were a couple years that I was there like every month doing a series for some would be a quilt maker,
Mhm.
McCall's quilting. I never did for Quilting Arts, but there were a lot of ones that they would do blocks of the month, and so I teach the demos for the whole block of the month,
Mm.
and but that was the first one with the cuddle cloth, and I have to tell you, it is
Mm.
not a secret behind the camera. Uh, I'd never worked with cuddle cloth in my whole life before I filmed those two videos.
I was thinking when you were saying, "Oh, they wanted me to work with it," so I'm thinking, "Oh, maybe she was like a, specialist in that," because that is a difficult or can be a difficult
Mhm.
fabric. I
Mhm.
just sewed with that with my, niece over the weekend. She wanted to make this shark tail blanket,
Ooh.
and of course, we picked out this, minky
Mhm.
cloth, and, because it's a blanket, so you want snuggly, and,
Yeah.
it's slippery. Yeah.
It is slippery. It is
Mhm.
slippery. I always I liken it to, right, you audition for a part and they say, "You're great. We love you. You got the job. We're gonna start on Monday." Awesome. Oh, and you speak French, right? And you're like, "Oui, s'il vous plaît."
Okay, this is good. So
And you have to
so
learn
you
it.
get the gig, and
I
then
get
you've
the gig.
never worked with so is this like a tale of, fake it till you make it?
Fake it till you make it. Learn it to show it. And
Yes.
I
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
learn it to
yeah.
show it.
That's what I was doing. I was learning it to show it, and there were
That's
there were a
cool,
few video
though.
things that I've never done this before. We're gonna learn how to do it. But I think that works with my personality because as I'm
Yeah.
learning it, I'm answering those questions, and then I
Mhm.
can answer those questions for the people who
Yeah,
are
because 'cause you're
watching.
going through everything
Right,
that anybody else
right,
would if they attempted to sew with it.
right.
So, yeah.
And I did research, right? I'm playing with it and I was pulling up videos. I was checking the
Mhm.
magazine, see if anybody had any tips. What
Mhm.
do the manufacturers suggest? What are,
Mm.
and try to put all those together
Mhm.
into a video that and they're still out there.
Oh,
There's two of them.
nice.
They're still
See?
out there.
Gosh, I'm taking lessons from you to
Oh
just
man.
dive in, do it.
There was one I did. It was I when I was so when you're going to film something, you do what's called a step out, right?
Yeah.
And it's like if you're going to do flying geese, so say you're doing flying geese, first you're going to have all the parts that go into the flying geese and all your equipment, and then you're going to have. And then you'll sew it, right? But then you also need to have these partials. So
Mhm.
here is the one with the first seam. Here is a set with
Mhm.
the second seam. Here's the one where those are cut apart. Here's the one where
Mhm.
they're pressed or whatever. You have to have all of those parts in it.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that they need to pull out or edit or whatever like that, you have what you need there and extra fabric too.
Mm.
My stash is pretty astounding, I have to say.
Mm.
But there was one of them that was it was a bird's nest, a birdhouse, excuse me, and they wanted you to do it with reverse applique.
Oh,
And
okay.
somehow when I read that, I didn't think reverse applique. So somehow I missed that in the information.
Mm.
And so we're there the day of, and I'm looking at it going, uh-oh, uh-oh. Okay, I need to figure out and I'd never done reverse applique. So like, okay, day of, let's figure out how to do this.
Mm.
Fortunately, I had a producer there with me at the time, Caitlin, and she was really good. She does a lot of works with a lot of it and with the other magazines that were being published there at the time. And so we're like, okay, so I need to do this and this. Okay, we got it. And I'm showing it and the first time ever to do it. So yeah, it is not unusual. It's not optimal, but it's not unusual.
Yeah, but, I was thinking too that, you've got that personality, which is bubbly from what I've seen just by talking to you now,
Yeah.
and, interest like, you capture attention, which is what they need
Right.
in, like,
Right.
how-to videos.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's great. I mean,
Well,
um,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Mhm.
I think some quilters who are teachers, you kind of get backed into it, right? Like you make
Mhm.
something, and I love this, and the guild says, "Oh, will you teach that for us?" And then it kind of grows out of that. But
Mm.
for me, I'm like, okay, I want to talk. Who will listen? What can I talk about? Will you pay attention to me now? I mean, it's not quite that bad, but it's kind of like I have all the equipment. You'll pay me to talk about quilting. I am there. What time? You know.
That's
So
the
that
key word, pay you for
there.
your time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh
so
yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
not start a podcast then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
it's a
hard
tough
to
thing.
Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not so hard podcasting itself, I think, like, once you get going and stuff, but it's, I'm not the greatest at marketing myself. So,
Mm.
yeah, and the money just doesn't, like, come. Like, if you build it, they will come. That
It
doesn't
doesn't?
happen. No.
No,
So
it doesn't. And it isn't that interesting? I have trouble marketing myself or figuring
yeah.
out how to do it where it's not like a salesman.
Right.
And
Yeah.
for only, but wait, there's
There's
more.
that
I
fine
mean,
line, and it's just like,
yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm learning, and, anyway, let's get back to your story.
Okay.
And then from then on, I think, was that like your kinda like tipping off point where you just sort of then did word of mouth spread and, you worked with other publications and
Yeah, yeah. Well,
companies?
yeah, and started to get into trying to get into magazines, and I still do that. I'm just on a lot of calls. I'll get different fabric companies and emails from a call. What do I want to say? The words that fail me. uh, Submission call outs, right? A
Oh.
call out for, yeah, we want
Mhm,
something for this project or
mhm,
something for this design or whatever, and or this new fabric line that we have, we want to do something with it. And I could, if I'm inspired by it, if I think, oh wait, I know just what would work, and I can start to put together and it'll come together kind of quickly, then I'll submit it. But other times I'm not looking at the fabric, or I'm not what they're like the time frame they're looking for.
mhm.
I might Google a few images and look at them and think about it. And if I'm not inspired, then I just won't submit. I
Right.
know a lot of people who like are every time it's there, they want to do it. Uh, but I found that that's not always profitable. And I feel
Mhm.
like at this point where I am, I want to be inspired. I don't want to
Yes.
just churn
Right.
things to get it out.
Well, at
I
this
want to be
point, you don't really
inspired.
have to because you've churned, you've put in all of that, blood, sweat, and tears to be able to choose, be a little bit more choosy
Hmm.
about the
Yeah.
projects that you take and feel good about them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I
Mhm.
think too, you know, uh, what do I want to say? I'm not at the level of success where I can tell myself, "Oh, I'll just sit back and do whatever I want." But I'm at the level kind of in my creative space journey that I'm not going to do. I, I want to do stuff that I find joy in, that I
Yes.
look at years later and I say, "Oh, I love that still. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
great. I have a great
yeah.
memories associated with that." And I that's what I want, because that's going to be more beneficial in the long run. And I think also it gives you an authenticity,
Mhm.
right? If I can look at the same
Mhm.
project over and over again and say, I still love this, and the reason I did this and what I like about it there. But I have some projects that I did that somebody was saying, all right, so what you need to do to start making money in your business, you need to have templates to go with your things. So I came up with something that would have templates with it. And now I look at that and kind of like, "Hmm, okay." I don't really, the feelings are not there. The creative passion is not there. So that's kind of what I try to look for. I want to have that creative passion
Yeah.
in there.
Oh,
Something
good.
that really lights
Yeah.
me up, as
Mhm.
opposed to, oh, okay, I'll do it. Because then you just feel like a cog. A lot of
Right.
times I felt like it
Yeah.
was just something for somebody else's product.
Yes.
And I don't want to
Just a
do that anymore.
cog, just a number.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because you know, it's interesting because there's just different levels that you can go. Like you said, I'm at this level that I love,
Mm,
and I like that. I respect it, and I like it because we don't all need to be, the overexposed celebrity
right.
person that, that's all you do.
Mhm.
And maybe your intellectual property is not always your own,
Mm,
and you're running
mhm,
on
mhm,
other companies,
mhm,
platforms and products and that sort of thing.
mhm.
So that's great. I like hearing that from some people because it's not always like I think there's like this whole like sort of behind the Wizard of Oz curtain that people
Right.
think you're
Yeah.
supposed, that it is, but it's not
Mhm.
always that, glamorous sort
Right.
of, oh, it's so wonderful to be, this
Yes.
like
Mm.
bigger than big
Mhm.
person in the industry. But and I kind of, I myself as a consumer and a student gravitate towards uh the people who are genuine, who I
Mhm.
can feel it from them that they
Mhm.
love what they do.
Mhm.
I'm not really like going after these corporate classes, and
Mm.
you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I love to connect with the person, and that's just me speaking for me. I mean, everybody's different and everybody like kind of gravitates towards whatever makes them feel, you know, like
Mhm.
they're getting something from it and feel great and connected. So
Mhm.
that's just like how I connect with people in the industry.
Oh, that's
So,
such a good point. I think when
yeah.
I very first started, I was doing um, a business class or something like that, and one of the lady asked me, "What do you want from your business?" And I'm thinking, well, I've watched Eleanor Burns and Alex Anderson and stuff like that. That's
Mhm.
what I want to be. I want to be like that, and I'm not sure now that that is
Right.
what I want anymore.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I would love. I mean, I have no problem with the notoriety. I would love to be
Mhm.
recognized at the grocery store.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I
Staying true
need
to
to.
yourself. Yeah.
Right. I need to find my own space
Right.
and where I'm going to be and what I want
Yes.
to do. And then
Yeah.
if people like it, come along, you know. I
Mhm.
mean, and there's always the side,
Mhm.
of course, there's business. There's always a side you got to make money. So
Yes.
it's that
That
Venn
too.
diagram. What do I love and what will people pay me for?
Uh-huh.
And more of
Yeah.
that in the middle.
Yes. And I mentioned this H&H trade show. It's like Quilt Market, but it's
Yeah.
up here in the Chicago area, so it's easy
Mhm.
for me to go to. And last year they did this creative uh, content creator summit. So
Oh,
people who
nice.
create
Nice.
content, and it was a whole day of just like um, workshops, and were some panel discussions, but like instructions and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
some of them were like that, like, if you, you need to build up all of this followings and be on every
Mhm.
platform and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And some of them I came out of there and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I
Yeah.
don't need to have like a million followers.
Mhm.
In fact, like I have a Patreon, and it's not ginormous by any means. It's very micro, but I love the connections with the people that are in this group.
Mhm.
Like those are your
Mhm.
super fans. So that's what I'm
Mm.
after. I'm not after like generic
Yeah.
numbers or just like pumping everything. I mean, you of course, then there's the other part where, yeah, you do have to do something to grow your
Right.
business. You can't just like lay back.
Oh, money again at the end of the month. Oh my gosh. Okay.
But yeah, and then I've just noticed that, quick little tangent again, but
Mhm.
other industries, because like I listen to podcasts too, like you do,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I've been hearing that, Instagram is not really the place anymore to
Mhm.
promote your business,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
Instagram's algorithms, and then just the way the platform has become
Mhm.
to be flashy, and reels and
Yeah.
numbers, and now your shops, and it's just very like, sort of like the get rich quick sort of platform scheme or whatever. And it's just
Mm.
people, like it used to be for art. It used to be like you
Yes.
posted pictures of your work, not that you're
You tell a
selling every
story.
little thing.
Right.
And there's like a motive behind every single post and
Right.
stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting just hearing someone else from a different, like from more of a business
Mhm.
um group, saying that Instagram really is just like not really the place
Now where it's
anymore.
happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to go where your people are. And I was
Yeah.
shocked to find out a lot of my people are on Pinterest. And I have
Yeah.
treated Pinterest like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't done that. I feel like I really need to go into that. But then also it's that whole thing. I don't want to be cogs for everybody else. I don't want to be
Exactly.
content for everybody else.
Yes.
I want to be
Yes.
content. I want my
Your own
content.
content.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
exactly. So, yes, we agree.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So then, let's talk about some of the things you do. Um, color. So you're known for your
Color.
color, uh, courses or
Mhm,
workshops or
mhm,
whatever we call them
mhm.
now. But, so, like, that's one of my favorite things too. Next to picking out fabrics is like my very
Oh,
favorite thing, but
yeah.
color is also part of that. And I love color, and I'm sure that's you do too, because that's why you
Yeah. Mhm,
teach it. But what
mhm.
drew you to working and teaching a course to help quilters pick out colors for their quilt
Ooh,
projects?
that is a great question. It was helping people pick out fabrics. It was, people come into the store, right, and they might have a little scrap of fabric with them. They say, "I need to make a quilt that's with this," or they would come in and say, "I want to make this pattern. Can you help me pick out fabric for it?" Or, "We're redecorating my kitchen, and now the colors are blue and yellow. Can you help me pick it out?" Right, and what I realized is that I probably have more of an intuitive eye. I just know what looks good to me and what I like. But people I was helping didn't have that. They couldn't see the same thing that I was thinking. And I told my girls years ago, when they'd ask the question, how do I know what my gift is? What am I good at? How will I know those things? And they said the way you know that is it's the thing where somebody says that you're just doing your normal stuff and they say, "Wow, you're really good at that." And you realize not everybody thinks the same way. Not everybody does the same thing that I do here. Aha. Aha. And so it was really helping people pick out fabrics. And I realized too, I haven't taken I don't have an art degree. I haven't done any of those classes or anything like that. And what I realized is when I was searching, how can I, as a quilter, learn more about color and share that with people and help people pick out fabric and design my own things? That there really, at that time, there was really nothing out there that was specific to quilters. I
Hmm.
mean, there was their interior design or graphic design
Hmm.
or something like that. I could find those, lots of
Hmm.
them, but nothing specific to quilters. And most of them I felt like came at it from an art theory or um from an art theory, color theory perspective, right? And I'm thinking, I just want to match fabric. Can we not do the semester on the color wheel here so I can match my fabric? I just want to get to this part. So that's what I designed in the Quilters color course. It's just to take you through those steps. How do I, as a quilter, relate to color? And how does color work? That's one of my favorite things because I spent a while, looking at different magazines and pictures and stuff. I'd sit back, okay, why do I like this? What is it? What's happening here that I really like? Why do I want to keep looking at it? What is drawing me to this? And then other stuff that you look at, because people bring in quilts and you're like, oh my, okay. That's interesting. In fact, there was one lady I was helping her pick out. It was for beginner class, beginner course. We were doing log cabins, and she brought in this fabric, and she said, "I want to use this as my focal fabric." I said, "Pick a focal fabric," and it was a probably mid 1980s peach and army green floral print. And I'm helping her. We're going throughout the store. And I'm like, I don't want anybody here to see me because I don't want them to know I'm responsible for whatever is going to happen here. I just don't want to be associated. But when she got into the class and we picked it out and we picked them all out, and we put them together, I thought, that really works. Why does that work? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about those things and why does it work and how does color work? And we do get into a little bit of the color theory, but after you've started to kind of break down those matchy rules that we have and to kind of see how color actually works in nature, I'm a big proponent of using nature as the designer. You can't do color better than nature, period. So often, I mean, we're talking about being inspired, right? I'll find out like if a magazine does a call out for, we want something for spring or fall, we want something for fall. So I'll go on Google and I'll look up fall images. what do I think of when I think of fall? What do I think of? Maybe food or leaves. Aha, leaf. Okay, so fall leaves. And then I'll pull up just a bunch of different images and see what's out there, see the pictures people have captured, and then the pictures that I really like, I'll be like, oh, okay, that is future reference right there. I like that. I like the colors that are happening there. That's where I want to go with. So that for me, that is the basis of all the designs that I do now, because it's something in nature. Usually it's
Mhm.
something that's an inspiration there that I can take off from, because you just can't do color better than that. So
Right.
that's one of the things that we
Yeah.
also talk about in there, is how to see what is really happening. Because
Mhm.
like so you can see the flower behind me, but if you say you're going to quilt a rose, you're going to applique a rose onto your quilt. All right, so what colors are you going to use? Well, it's a red rose, so I'm going to use red. Okay, and I'm going to use green. And what else? Because if you look at a red
Right. You're
rose,
gonna use
it's not just red.
maroon, you're gonna use a
Yes.
lighter pink. Yeah,
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
maybe even maybe a little white where the light is
Yep.
on it just right. And
Mhm.
then, oh, don't forget the center. We have a little bit of yellow maybe there in the
Yep.
center.
Mhm.
And the stem. We've got our
Yep.
green. We've got the little thorns. Maybe they're a little more darker
Brownish,
green. And
darker
then of course lime green.
green.
Lime green is a neutral.
Yes.
I
Oh,
can I
okay.
can prove it. I can prove it. I can prove it. But
Just how I prove that purple is a neutral.
yes. Oh,
But
I'm with ya.
one of my favorites.
Oh.
Yeah.
We need to do a little YouTube sesh on that one. We do.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
I
okay. All right.
know. It's like I just feel like I met, like, a soul sister in this
Oh,
interview.
man.
Alright, so
Definitely.
listeners, we, like, have no idea, like, I had no idea who Jenny K. Parks was, and she
Mm-mm,
probably didn't
mm-mm.
know who I was until she actually went to my website. I'm so honored because you are actually the first one who clicked on my "Let's collab." I just put it on there, like, last year,
Really?
so it's not been on there that long.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I got that email, I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yay! It's working.
I mean, I've gotten some where they're just like these scammer companies and stuff, so then I'm
Oh,
like, "Wait a
yes.
second, who is this Jenny K. Bar?" And then I'm like, "Oh my god, it's for real."
Well, yay.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
that's very
yeah.
cool. That's
Cool,
very cool.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, the colors oh, this is awesome.
And
Very
so
good.
the second shop that I worked at here in Denver, and they recently closed, but I have to say it was they closed because the gal who was running it retired. But
Mm, was that Pink Door?
no, no, that's a
Are they
different
in
one.
Denver
They're
or
they're a little north of Denver.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
This was Wooden Spools, is what it was
Oh,
called.
okay, okay.
And her business, she's a big knitter, so half of it was knitting, half of it was what she called revived fabric. So quilters would bring in stuff from their stashes, and if it was good, high quality fabric, no smells, unwashed, and everything like that, she
Mhm.
would buy it and then sell it again. You could find all kinds of stuff. So
Nice.
she had blenders there, and also, I mean, I'm telling you guys, going through boxes and boxes of fabric, figuring out what's good enough to go out on the floor, you learn
Mhm.
a ton. You learn a ton.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And but working for her was amazing because she was such a brilliant kind of entrepreneur, but very generous person, a very warm and welcoming and kind
Oh, I
person.
love
Just a
that.
tremendous. It was so it was
Yeah.
an honor for me to work for her, even for the short time that I was able to do that.
Oh.
But what she also had in her fabric too, she had some blenders, but then she also had cherry wood.
Mhm.
And it was the first time I'd ever seen cherry wood. And she had it in a display, floor to ceiling, this whole flow of every color you could possibly imagine. And I'm like, the light descends from above. Oh, I was like, wow. And so anytime that I could play with the cherry wood, she was saying, "Oh, yeah, play with that. Look at that. What do you think about this? Or, oh, if we do this, and then we put that thing there, and oh, look at that." You know, just get so excited about it. It's like I don't know if you remember this or anything, but when I was a kid, I think the biggest box of crayons you could get was just like it just had like there was a 12, and then the next grade up I could go a little bit bigger, and then that year that they came out with something that was over 100, and it had the sharpener in the back. And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh,
And the
mom,
lid flipped up,
mom,
and they were,
yes."
like, layered.
Mhm.
I love those.
And can I tell you, I organized all of those by color. I did all of it by color.
Mhm.
And but that's what the cherrywood stuff was like to me. It's like,
Mm.
all the colors.
Mm.
What can we do with this? And then she connected me with Carla at Cherrywood. So I got to be a Cherrywood ambassador, and that's so fun. I love that. I love
Mm.
being able to work with all the colors, and I love it.
So, yeah,
Love
so
it.
Cherrywood is, like, they
Yes.
they have, like, the one type of fabric, and they are the best at it,
Oh yeah.
and it's, like, it's hand dyed, right?
Right,
Or
right. It's
yeah.
a I'll be honest, even as an ambassador, I don't know the whole process because it's proprietary. They won't tell you.
Oh, okay, okay.
But it's hand dyeing, and the way they do it,
Yeah, it's
everything is
hand dyed.
pre-shrunk,
Yep.
and so you don't have to worry about that, but it's soft. It has
Very
kind of
soft,
a
yeah.
marbleized effect, kind of
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit,
a
like
very
suede.
dimensional
Yes.
fabric because it's not just
Yes.
one flat color, which is what the
Right.
greatest thing about that fabric is, and it
Mhm.
draws a lot of art quilters to it,
Mhm.
and just any quilter really that actually has, been able to see it at their local quilt shops.
Yes.
Okay, so
And
cherrywood, that's awesome.
it sews like butter. I love it. I love
Mm,
it. So normally I'm a big starcher, and in fact, that's one of the things I have on my YouTube, my method for starching stuff, which I
okay.
developed working in when doing the filming, right?
Mm,
Because you're filming something, and okay, so now we're going to press this to the dark, and you want to press it, and you want it to stay down perfectly
yes.
for that shot. You want that shot.
Mhm,
And what I was finding is stuff I just press it regularly or not starch it, and it would
mhm,
might pop back up or something like that, and you'd have to
mhm,
kind of circle back to get the shot you wanted.
mm,
But so I just got in the habit during the filming is that any stuff I'd get in, I would do all the starching on it so that it would behave. You
mm,
don't have to do that with cherry wood. It just
mhm,
behaves
mm.
beautifully and doesn't
Nice.
shift. I mean, it's just wonderful. So
Yeah,
I love
that's
it because
great.
all the colors, all
Yeah, they
you
have
have
a
all the
lot of
colors
colors.
there, all the
Mhm,
colors that you can find.
mhm.
So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, cool. Cherrywood, nice.
And it
Uh,
is, it's not, what do I want to say? It's, it's high level fabric, would be the way to put it. It's
mhm.
not, they're not inexpensive. But
Yes. Yeah,
so you figure out kind of you target what you're going to do with it.
right,
I for a
right.
while I was making like and doing quilts with it, full size quilts,
Yeah.
and submitting that to magazines, but that just didn't move because cherry wood is so because it's more expensive, but
Mhm,
you want to use it for smaller things where you
mm.
can highlight those things. That's why I got the
Yeah, and I think
little
they
one with the tulips
sell
behind
them in
me.
smaller bundles too,
They
so you can
do.
get
They
all the
do.
colors
Yes.
that they're known for. It's for, like,
Yeah.
gradient,
Ah,
projects. Yeah,
yes.
it's really
Yeah.
nice. But I wanna back up to something you had said with,
Mhm.
teaching quilters,
Ooh, mhm.
color theory, like, for quilters,
Specifically,
which is
yeah.
true because I come from interior design,
Right.
and I did take the color theory in school and
Yes.
all that stuff, and, of course, I also then, sewed clothing, which takes yardage, and
Mhm.
interior design takes yardage, and the scale is bigger, so when I started quilting, then I was like learned quickly, you don't need to buy, like, 5 yards of fabric for the quilt unless it's the backing,
I
something like
mean, you still
that.
can, but
You can, but then you don't for quilts, you do it differently than other types of sewing or decor. That's my dog, sorry.
It's alright.
Um,
I got mine here too.
it's because the prints are small scale
Mm,
because you
mhm,
wanna be able to
mhm,
see them cut
mhm,
up in the quilt, so that's part of it, and, mixing prints is part of it because you can
mhm,
mix unlimited prints in quilting, but then people have a fear or scared of, like, how they put all these in there, and so that's
mhm.
what you it sounds like what you do. I think it's brilliant. I love it. I love that you do this because it can really open up. Do you have students where they're just like, oh my gosh, you just totally opened my eyes and I feel so confident that I can
Yes.
do this now?
Yeah, yeah. If you go on there, I've listed some reviews. It
Mhm.
only allows you like a certain space on the course
Mhm.
platform, but
Yeah.
yeah, and that's something I always love about it. I want
Mhm.
there to be several times throughout there that the student will sit back and go, oh, 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 and they're
Yeah.
realizing all these things and putting the dots
Yeah.
together. I actually just taught one, taught the three of the lessons. I have 5 lessons on the right now. I'm going to add more, but 5 lessons on the course, and I teach the 3 in person because the last 2 you need to. It takes some time in between. But anyways, I'm teaching that in person. When I'm realizing these gals that I'm teaching, they had the confidence there. It was just somebody to say, just to pull that out a little bit. No, you have that there. Because so many I would see people come into the shop and they would say, oh, my friend's here with me to help me pick this out because she's really good at color. Right, which is great. It's wonderful that friends are good at color, but what you're saying is I'm not good at color. I have to have her because I don't know how to do it. When really it's so much about seeing what's there and then your own vision. What do you like?
Yeah.
What looks good to you? Right? And
Yes.
not being stuck in what do I see on Instagram? What is the latest thing in the magazine? Not being
Yeah.
stuck there, but being able to see what
Mhm.
you like and the ideas that you have. So yeah, I love that. I
And
love that.
there's
I've
always that fear that, "Oh, it's wrong. I can't do that. It's against the rules." And it's just like, you make the rules. You make the rules for your quilts and for your
yes.
stuff. I do that. I say that for interior design too. This
Mhm.
is your home. You're living in it. I'm not living there. We're
Mm.
gonna do what you want, but I'm gonna guide you as, to
Mhm.
do like make your vision come to
Mhm.
life. So the same thing with quilters, I think, are kind of like sometimes um, dictated to from not I don't want to not saying that magazines are bad, but they
Right.
can
No,
feel
no.
like that they have to do it this way, and they
Yeah.
don't. They really don't. Because
Right.
how do you think that new color combinations come together from people who have experimented and pulled
Mhm.
together something that they liked, and then other
Mhm.
people are like, "Ooh, that looks really cool.
Mhm.
I want to try that."
That's one of the things in the course is like reviewing it. Okay, we put this together. What color combinations did you see that you're surprised about? What things
Mhm,
you're like, "Oh, those do look nice to I wouldn't have
mhm.
never thought of that." And now you think of it, and now that's
Right,
a future quilt
right.
idea.
Yeah, and it gets their creative juices going. That's awesome. I
Yes,
really love
yes.
that. Very cool. So, I'll have that in the show notes, the link to your, 'cause you teach it in person, but you said you have 2 parts that are online, or is
So
the
I
whole thing
have
online?
I have a course online. The whole
Okay.
thing's online,
Oh, good.
but
Okay.
I do teach it to local shops and like if guilds, I've presented it for guilds too. And it's only
Hmm.
it's the first 3 that are presented to guilds
Mhm.
and in person because that's stuff we can do that day. The
Right.
other 2 have assignments where all right, go and do this, go
Mm.
and do that, and go and do
Good.
that thing and pull
Yeah.
those together. So
Cool.
they can't be taught the same day, but it's enough to get you started and get all those things pumping and get you
Mm,
with ideas
mm.
and
Okay.
confidence. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
isn't a right. There isn't
Right.
a you always have to do
Mhm,
it this way.
mhm,
There is how do you see it? How does color work? How does that color actually work in nature? How does it work when you see it?
mhm.
What rules, and yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Good.
I'm sorry. I take that back. There's actually 4 exercises that we do. Oh, wrong.
Okay.
I'm free. Yeah, 4 exercises that we do in person.
Okay. Really
Sorry about that.
good.
And then the other 2 exercises
Okay.
are part of the course
Got
because they
it.
take more time. But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Very good. And then you also, have a machine binding course.
I
Um,
do.
and, yeah, machine binding has really become a thing in the last, like, 10 years, I think.
It has. It
Because
has.
before then, again, here we go talking about the rules again, and, like, it's not a quilt, it's not real unless you're, hand bound, and I actually like hand binding quilts myself, but
Me
I
too.
also machine bind
Mhm.
when it needs to be, or when I
Mhm.
want to. And so it's good that you have this course out there. And again, it just opens up opportunities for
Mm-hmm.
quilters to do things that are good for their time frames. And
Right.
what do they say? Done finished is better than
Finished is better than perfect.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that course grew out of a shop sample that I was making. I had to turn it in the next day, and it was going to be published in a book, photographed and published in a book.
Mm,
And I'm telling you, that binding was so bad, so bad. Fortunately, they were able to cover the worst corner, like with another quilt.
mhm.
It was a disaster. And I thought, that's it. Forget it. Forget it. I need to find, I'm going to let everything else go. I need to find a way to quilt where I can do it quickly because I'm usually under a time crunch. Surprise. I'm usually under a time crunch. It needs to be quick. It needs to look good. And I need to be able to teach it because that's
Mm,
what I do.
mm.
And no special tools or something that I'm going to have to rediscover how to do it every time I bind a quilt. And that's what I did. I love it. I use it all the time, except for I still will not do it if it's a quilt that I know is going to be judged on a competition level
Right. Yeah.
because the judges are going to feel that
Mhm.
binding and make sure that everything is full and flush, and it
Right.
doesn't always happen with machine binding. But
Right.
I
Yeah.
I, I can bind a queen size quilt in about 2 hours and have it look
Oh,
good, and it's
oh,
out the door
machine.
on by machine. Yeah,
Okay. I was
I
gonna
can do
say
that
by
by machine.
hand? No way.
No, 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 not by my hand. No, no, no,
Oh,
no.
yeah, by
That's
machine for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Mhm.
so I really enjoy doing that, and I've
Mhm.
got a lot of positive feedback about it. People enjoying the class and taking it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, it's been very beneficial. I teach it locally, and I have the course, and I also teach guilds. I can
Oh,
do that
great.
virtually and stuff.
Really
So
good.
yeah.
Yeah, and then, I had both my nieces over this weekend, so we
Hmm.
were machine binding her quilt,
Hmm.
and the back of her quilt was, like, this blue color, but
Hmm.
the front was, like, all different colors, light,
Oh,
lighter, brighter colors and stuff, so, uh, we picked out the thread for the back that, like, totally blends in
yes.
because, I mean, I haven't perfected to where my stitching from the front is perfectly stitched on the binding in the
Hmm.
back. It'll still run off a little, and
Hmm.
but when you have the thread that blends in, who cares because you can't
Right.
even notice it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what's the point? And if somebody's going to
Mhm.
pick at it,
Yeah.
they can do it themselves.
Right?
Okay.
There you
I'm
go.
no, no. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm getting it
Yeah,
out the
yeah,
door.
yeah.
Charity quilts. I mean, if the kids are
Yeah.
going to make a tent out of it in the backyard in 4 years, it's not going to matter. It's okay. It's okay.
Right, right, yeah.
But
And
I do it with the stuff that I know is going to be in magazines because I like to do a decorative stitch
yes, yeah.
around there.
Those are
And
that's where you could yeah, make use of your decorative
yes.
stitches, right? It's
Yes, yes, that's
fun.
a bonus. I love
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
love that. Makes them extra special.
Cool. Okay, so machine binding course, and,
Mhm.
there's something that I noticed on your website that you and I share the same opinion on,
Oh.
and it is that we hate basting quilts.
Oh.
Oh my gosh,
That's
I
the
know.
thing I don't like about quilting.
Oh.
The basting, oh my mercy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I've tried to find ways to do it. I've tried to find ways because you know, I, I've tried to find ways. I think I've started making smaller quilts partly because I don't like to baste.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I mean, like, the floor thing,
Mhm.
um, first of all, we live in, like, a pretty narrow so there's not really a room where, like, there's a king size amount of space on the floor.
Uh-huh.
And secondly, I have basted on the floor,
Mhm.
and now I'm to the age where I'm just like, "No, it hurts too much." It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
my
Yeah.
knees, kneeling on the floor is just, like
Mhm.
and your back and all that stuff, and
Mhm.
so then you bring it on the table, but if you were to baste if I were to have a table that was at least, like, 5 feet wide by
Mhm.
10 feet long,
Mhm.
basting would be a piece of cake, right?
Mhm.
Because you
Yeah.
could fit it all on there, it's not pulling the weight and, you know,
Mhm.
but it's not ev I don't, I have like a
Mm.
30 or 40 to 40-inch wide
Mhm.
table, And so all of the time, like part of your quilt is always hanging off the side, or I'm propping up chairs to make sure the weight doesn't hang off the side and
Mhm.
pull up. So it's
Mhm.
very hard. And I do like pin basting better than spray basting.
Mhm.
But like with my niece's quilt, it's bad. So here I am trying to show her how to baste, and then we got part halfway through with the pinning, and I looked at the other side, and I'm just like, there's folds in this. We have to do it again. My poor niece is just like, what?
I'm sorry.
Oh
This
my
is the
gosh.
worst.
It is. I told her it's okay. I told her, you know what? It's okay to not like a certain process of the whole thing, the
Mhm.
quilt making, and this would be one of mine. So,
Mhm.
and I don't want you to hate it. So we're gonna do it over again, and we're gonna, have fun and just go with it.
And we're
And
gonna
so then
turn
I
on the
did a little bit of
podcast and
both. Yeah. So I'm like, it was nice because you normally just have yourself. I have myself to just
Mhm.
base. I had
Mhm.
her, so I'm like, we're gonna make this work, and
Mhm.
we're gonna put the bottom down, and then I'm gonna like. We'll put the batting in there, and you're gonna lift it up a little bit. I'm gonna spray a little bit, and then we're gonna tap it down, and then we're gonna pin. So I just
Uh-huh.
kind of like spray tacked the stuff
Oh,
in
okay.
place.
Okay. That's
Then
clever.
we went through and pinned, and she pinned on the one side and I pinned on the other side, and we took it like half, because that's the other thing, the direction of the pins face when you're putting it in your machine. So we figured
Uh,
out, oh, your half the pins are going to go this way and my half the pins are going to go that way. It was awesome. Yeah. I'm like, this is actually the most fun I've had in basting ever.
have you tried the pool noodle or the
No,
bars with it? I tried that.
no.
That worked better because you can just ooch across in smaller parts. But
Ah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So anyway, it's just
I
basting
don't
is
like
what it
it.
is. I don't like it.
Right.
Right. I don't have to like it. I
Right.
just have to do it. And then once it is basted, then it's like,
Yeah.
yes,
All right. Let's get to
now
it. Yeah.
let's finish this up.
Yeah.
All right. So then here's what I talked about earlier that we're going to get to is
Hmm.
tearing or ripping fabrics. And you have a little video on your YouTube channel, which your
Hmm.
YouTube channel is Jenny K
Jenny K.
Quilts.
Quilts.
Yes, Jenny K
Hmm.
Quilts. It'll be in the link will be in the show notes. So I like the video that you do because you talk about, why you like to tear or rip
Hmm.
fabrics and the reasons, and with the warp and the weft and all that kind of stuff. And it's like one of those things where when you're out in the quilt world, whether you're like in a class or guild or just even in this quilt shop, and then people get in a discussion about it, and there's always like
Hmm.
to tear, to rip, or not to rip,
Hmm.
and other some people feel very strongly of like you are ruining that fabric
Yes, you're
and it will
destroying it.
never be the same. And it's just like,
Yes.
well, it will be, and it's like a very fast way to get a perfectly squared
Hmm.
side of your fabric.
Hmm.
And we're lucky because quilting is mostly comprised of cottons, which are woven with the warps and the wefts,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
All woven
so what are the
together.
reasons you like it?
Well, okay, just a little bit of history. So when I worked at Sofro Fabrics, we cut everything, you line it up, you measure it, you line it up with the groove, and you cut it with the scissors, right?
Yeah.
And then the first quilt shop that I worked at, we ripped everything, which was
Hmm.
really new to me. But I did find one, as a shop, it's very practical because you don't need the cutting mats and the rotary cutters and the rulers, so you don't have to worry about maintaining those or getting new ones or whatever. But
Hmm.
what I found is that you would get that straight edge.
Hmm.
When my grandma would, in the older patterns and stuff, they would say you have to, if you're going to line this up on the grain line, and to find the grain line, you have to count so many threads over, pull that thread out, and that will give you the straight edge. I'm like, oh no, I don't have time for that. So this is another way to find that straight edge. When you get, I mean, we've all done it, right? You bring fabric home,
Hmm.
and the fold may be straight, but the salvage is all one part of it's going off at an angle, right? It's not perfectly lined up when you do that.
And then you
That's
don't have all your yardage. It's happened to be a
right.
lot.
Right. That can totally make a difference. When you rip it, you get that yardage because
Yeah.
it's all there.
Yeah.
But so the fold, like the salvage is different or the fold is all wonky or something's off. That's because in the manufacturing, when they weave it, they're done with that part. But when they want to put it on the bolt, I don't know if you've
Mhm.
ever seen those videos, right? But they line it up really carefully and they turn it on and wah, 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 and
Yeah.
it's all what happened here? And so they're not concerned with the straight of grain. They have
Right.
a shipment to make.
Yeah.
I have to find this straight of grain. So finding that I think makes a
Mhm.
huge having that there makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
When I prep for filming, I rip that fabric and then I do the starching and I'm all ready to go and it's straight.
Nice.
What I was finding before I really started doing the ripping and the starching is that like you'd make a block, right? And maybe it's birds in the air, right? So you've got some half square triangles, you got some other stuff.
Mhm.
And all right, this is 8 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches, 7 3/4. What the heck? Why? This is all the same. Why is this block different?
Right.
And what I was finding is that other block would be different. There'd be variances in it because instead of when you don't cut on that straight line, you get a little bit of the bias in there.
Mm.
And it may be more than you expected. It may be a lot more than you expected. So, what we want in quilting, or you're making one block after another, is consistency. We
Mhm.
want the same fabric to work the same way when I use the same techniques. So I
Mm.
get the same results. That's
Mhm.
what I want. And when you have that bias in there, an unknown amount of bias and an unknown amount of straight grain, and they're playing off of each other, you're going to get inconsistent results.
Mm.
So that's kind of the first thing that I teach beginners. We're going to rip it and you're going to do this because it will keep these problems from happening. And when I
Mhm.
teach how to do triangles, this will keep your triangles right. It'll keep
Mhm.
them you'll keep the
Yeah.
points because that's the point.
Mhm.
So that's what I find with it. And it just it just works. I don't know how else to explain it, but
Mm.
you are working with the fabric the way the fabric is meant to be
Right.
worked. Does that
Right.
make sense? You've got that
Yes.
straight of
Yes.
grain and it's beautiful. And it
Right.
takes no time at all. And I always recommend too at this shop we always would they'd say I want 7/8 of a yard and so you'd give them a few extra inches to account for that ripping. It allows you because it can fray up the edges, right? It can get them a
Mhm.
little wavy. It
Right.
allows you that extra bit to trim that off, and then you can use it for applique, you can use it for something else, whatever.
Right. Okay, because it does create that wavy edge,
It does.
and you can press it, but it's still sort of sometimes just not like not like you can start your block or your whatever you're cutting, whether it's
Mhm.
strips of fabric or whatever, you move in a
Mhm.
little bit,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll rip it, right? And you have that wavy bit, and then
Mhm.
I'll lay it down and I'll trim that I'll make sure the straight edges is there and I'll use
Yes.
that straight edge that I've created, that ripped
Yes.
edge, as my reference for the whole thing. The
Gotcha.
salvages can be doing whatever, the fold can do whatever, but I am following this. This is my
Yeah,
standard
that's
now.
your guide. Got
Right.
it.
And then you cut on that, and then you're cutting on the straight of grain.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have had some fabrics that somehow the gray goods, just what they're manufactured out of, it
Yeah.
would get off grain as I would go along. Let's say I'm cutting 10 strips, I get 5
Mhm.
strips in. This is off grain. I need to rip it again.
Mm.
And that's the gray goods that you start with. So
Mhm.
in the couple years of working at that quilt shop where we ripped everything all day, fat
Mhm.
quarter, everything was ripped. There were two fabrics that it did not work properly, and that was due to defects in the fabrics themselves.
Mm,
And
okay.
so my ripping it discovered that
Mhm.
defect,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't damage the fabric.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I okay. So I'll say that was for cotton fabrics.
yeah.
I don't know that I do it on, silks or something else like that.
Right.
I don't know that
No.
I would do that.
No.
I haven't played enough around with that. I don't have my
Right.
10,000 hours on that one, but I
Yeah.
do on the other one.
You can do it with the cottons and the lighter weight, broadcloths and
Right.
stuff like that, but, a cotton linen blend, you won't be able to do it.
Yeah, I think you're probably
You would
right.
have to pull a thread
Right.
to
Do
because of
something
the
like that
linen. Linen
instead.
fabrics they have a different thing with
They're a
the
little
way
more
they
picky.
yes.
Yeah.
But that's great. That's great. And again, people can choose to do the cutting and the ripping the
Hmm.
way they want. I know sometimes just the sound, um, people don't like. They're like covering their ears because to them it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Your
So then you're like,
destruction.
then don't rip.
Right.
Just slice it, slice and dice it.
And that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You do you.
But there's a reason. It's not like people just
Right.
rip it to be lazy or,
No.
whatever.
No.
There that's why I brought it up because there's a reason
Hmm.
for it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so now we all know what that is.
Yeah, that straight grain makes a huge difference.
Right.
But I
Yeah, yeah.
will say now, in comparison with the cherry wood, I don't rip that. It's already like
Mhm.
that manufacturing is totally different. It's not whipped up onto bolts like the other stuff, and you get it. You can tell where the grain line is, and you're
On
good to
cherry
go.
wood fabrics.
Yeah, I haven't
Okay.
had any problems with that one, but
Good.
so I
Good to
don't rip
know.
a cherry wood, but I do
Yeah.
everything else that I
Yeah.
get. Yeah, and I always buy
Okay.
a little extra, or a
Yes.
yard or extra or something. There's
Yes.
always extra. But and I wouldn't rip of course pre-cuts. I wouldn't do that.
No,
No,
no.
not at
Yeah.
all. And if you get a kit,
Yeah.
and it just has exactly what you need, then you can't.
Mhm.
So
Right.
there you
Right.
go. It's not it's a guide, it's not a rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 And it's mainly for like, full width
Yeah, exactly.
yardage. Like you
Exactly.
said, you wouldn't do it in an already cut piece.
No, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
All right, then. Okay, so let's talk about recently you were on
Mm,
the
mm,
quilt show with
yes.
Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms.
I was. It was so exciting. It
How
was
exciting
so
was
exciting.
that? Tell us all, what was your segment about? It's up there
Oh,
now, so if people are members, they can go watch it.
yes. And I,
And
I
I
think you
saw a
can even,
preview for it when they were
yeah, there you
introducing,
go.
but I need to go back and watch the full segment. But tell
Yes.
us. I'm so excited to hear
So
this.
I taught, see, it was Ricky Timms that I was teaching. So I was doing the one-on-one with him.
Mhm.
And it was just an amazing day. They are so, both Ricky and Alex, I feel odd using a first name basis because I'm still like, oh, but they're so professional and so kind, and they're just on the mark, and they got it, and here you go, and so good at what they do. It's really,
Hmm.
really, oh, just so awesome to be around. It was just awesome. And then there was a lot of people, so they filmed in this Airbnb, and there were other people, like there's all the staff and camera and lights and whatnot, but then there's also the other guests that are going to be on there. So it was just so fun. It was a whole day of, I think it was all day. Yeah, it wasn't 2 days. It was just one day.
Mm.
And um everybody that was there that you'd see coming and going for the segments and lunch and everything was so awesome. And like I was telling you before, I walked in the door, and you'd go just a couple of steps to get up to the main area,
Mm.
and Ricky Timms comes over, and he says, "Hi, I'm Ricky Timms." I'm like, of course you are. I know who you are. I'm so excited. Uh, and so the segment was about binding, and I have to tell you, I mean, I've, like we just discussed this. I have a course. I've taught it in guilds. I've taught it in person, and here I am with Ricky Timms, and I'm like, what do I do next? Okay, I kind of just lost it for a minute or two. I'm like, yeah, and he's, so do we want to do this? Yeah, let's do that. I'm here. I know how to do this. I swear. But I taught some of the parts of the beautiful machine binding, and
Ah,
showed some of my stuff, and it was really fun. It was an amazing experience, kind of a high level mark, because I mean,
yeah,
all the way back in the beginning,
yeah.
I'm watching them. I'm watching Alex,
Mhm,
and Ricky Timms would be a guest, and I'm watching Eleanor Burns, and I'm sitting back and I'm thinking,
mhm.
I can do that. I can do that. I want to be able to do that, and then to do it is really cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, and, okay, so you're used to being filmed and on camera and stuff, but now you're
Hmm.
in this environment
Hmm.
with legends, and were you nervous? Like, were your hands
Oh,
shaking when you sometimes when I watch guests on these shows, I can see
hmm.
their hands shaking, and I'm
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I
yeah.
know." And I don't even know how I would be, but how were you?
I think there was a little bit of the, "I'm gonna barf. I'm gonna barf now. I'm gonna throw up, please." But you just, like, kinda have to take some deep breaths and
Deep breaths.
let it go and rely on, who what you already know and who you are. I think it's so easy in that space to get really intimidated, and
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel like I'm a little tiny fish in a big, big, big old pond, and but what do I wanna say? To not diminish what I did to get there, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I don't know how they ended
Yeah.
up calling me.
Mhm.
It was somebody, she said, "Oh, yeah, somebody over at the Quilt Museum, Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum, said I should talk to you." I'm thinking, "I don't know anybody at the Rocky Mountain. Who do I know?" So it wasn't anything that I, like, directly did,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not going to diminish that, "Oh, no, you don't.
Sure.
Oh, no, not me." Just say, "All right, I'm not where they are, but I am here, and I do
Oh,
have
that's
something to contribute,
good.
and I have value for being here." I think we
That's
as
a great
quilters,
takeaway. Yeah.
oh, well, we as quilters, we do this all the time, right? You show
Mhm.
somebody your quilt and they say, "Oh, that's beautiful. I love how you did this or whatever and the other thing." And we're like, "Oh, no, no, I know." And we start to point out all the mistakes. We start to point out all the flaws. It's
Yeah.
like something inside us thinks,
Yeah.
"I don't deserve
Yes.
these compliments that you're giving me, so I'm going to
Mhm.
reject them." We need to stop that thinking
Yeah,
in
we
our heart
do.
and change
Yeah.
that and say, "No, well, thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that."
Yes.
And see it for what it is
Mhm.
and not diminish it, not comparing our weaknesses to
Yeah.
somebody else's strengths. That's a huge one for me because I do that all the time.
Yeah,
I
I'm
see
trying to
what,
soak that in for myself too,
yeah,
because
yeah, that's, yeah.
it's yep, it's very inspirational, and it's something that, I really just need to absorb, and it's
Hmm.
it and it's almost like a, you know, second, nature
Hmm.
reaction that I would just have to train like you've done. Like you've talked
Hmm.
to yourself of like, I'm not diminishing what I've how I got here and
Right.
why I'm here and that I'm not good enough.
Hmm.
But I mean, maybe it came natural to you, but because you are a very extrovert, vivacious personality, I'm not.
Hmm.
So I have to work harder of like you said, like knock it off and,
Hmm.
like just like completely, you know, tell yourself, believe in
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
So that's good. I really like that takeaway. And I think a lot of people would appreciate it
Hmm.
because I know I'm not the only one.
No, 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 no.
So that's great. Oh, I love it. I feel like this is a great
Mm,
natural ending point to our
mm,
talk, except
mhm.
that I want to just go over that you do have an Etsy shop,
I do, I do.
and we'll put that in the show notes.
Mhm.
And then in March, so this is going to publish in March, um, probably in mid March. So I don't know when your event is, but
The
you
end
are
of March.
oh good. This will be in the
Yeah,
middle. Oh,
yeah.
perfect.
Yay.
So you're going to be teaching at Quilt Fest, or what are
Yes,
you
I
doing?
will be
Yes.
teaching beautiful machine binding
Ah.
and the, Quilters Color Workshop.
Oh, nice,
Yeah, I'll
nice.
be doing
And
both of those
where
things.
is this Quilt Fest at in March?
Well, it's virtual.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
any
Anybody can
anybody can jump
go.
in. Anybody
Oh,
can jump in.
awesome. Alright, we'll
Yeah,
put a link
yeah.
for that too, so people can, sign up and go virtually. I love
Yeah.
virtual. I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Because I don't have to pack up my machine and lug everything everywhere.
Right? Right? And
Yeah,
everybody has all their equipment. When you're
yeah.
teaching them, "I forgot it at home." "No, I didn't. I got
Mhm.
it right here."
Right here,
That's it, yeah.
and I get the front row seat no matter what.
Yes.
I love that
Yes.
too. Yeah. Oh, good, good. Well, thank you so much, for, contacting me from my website. I really appreciate it, and otherwise, I would not have known you otherwise, so it was just,
Yeah.
like, meant to be,
It's
and,
wonderful.
it was so great talking with you, and like I said earlier, I feel like I've met a soul sister, with
Mhm.
you,
We need to do that
and,
purple and green thing.
totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So, thanks so much. I've gotta going to have your links in the show notes, and like continued success with you. I mean, you're
Thank
very
you.
inspirational, and I can see why these companies want you to,
Mm.
partner with them.
Thank you.
So thanks. And we'll talk again.
We definitely will. Definitely
Oh.
will. You're a wonderful interviewer. This was great.
Oh, thanks. All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Please help support this podcast by following me on Instagram at stephanie.socha.design and my YouTube channel at Make and Decorate. Also, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/makeanddecorate, where you can subscribe to receive an extra podcast episode every month. Until next time, keep making and decorating.